Hi, I'm Michael Pepe. I'm here with Cheryl Kozdrey, and we'll be talking more about first-party property policies and compliance with policy conditions.
Cheryl, what are some of the conditions that we need to be aware of on a first party policy?
So the first party property policies often have conditions that are really in the policyholder's control. Some of these include for example, the duty to cooperate with the carrier throughout its investigation, the duty to set aside damaged property for the carrier to inspect again during the course of its investigation. Also, the duty to document and track inventory or the losses specifically. That includes losses for the physical damage itself. We call these hard costs. It also includes damage for soft costs or time element losses.
So tell us a little more about the duty to cooperate. What is the duty to cooperate and how does that affect coverage?
So the carrier wants the opportunity before providing coverage to be able to come to the site, inspect the property that was damaged, assess the cause of the loss to determine whether it falls into an exclusion or to determine whether it falls within coverage. The carrier also asks that the policyholder provide documentation and adequately tracks the value of losses, again, to assess what may or may not fall within coverage, and to determine whether those losses arise from truly the damage to the property and or the damage resulting from a covered cause of loss.
Cheryl, you talked about tracking your losses. Why is that important, particularly when we're talking about time element losses?
Well, time element losses are sometimes difficult to assess in the first place and difficult to track. So one of the first things we recommend is that the insured maintains a time impact analysis and continues to update and maintain that. Another thing we recommend is that the carrier adequately classifies or labels its categories of losses. For example, there can be a fine line between an expediting expense, that is the cost incurred to push a project along so that there are not delays, as compared to an actual delay damage, that is the cost incurred to keep crew and equipment on site beyond what was expected under the contract. When we talk about labeling, broad terms like direct supervision costs, it's unclear with a label like that whether it's an expediting or a delay expense. So we want to be really careful to articulate, is this truly a time-related overhead cost or is this an expediting expense? So some training internally can be helpful for that.
Cheryl, what's another condition that's really important on a first party policy?
Another condition that we've seen, become an issue lately, particularly with respect to COVID issues and business interruption costs, are the contractual limitation period. So many states allow the carrier to limit the time in which a policyholder is allowed to bring a lawsuit against the carrier when there's a coverage dispute. Most states have a statutory period that can be 4 years, 6 years, pretty lengthy, but contractually, the carrier can limit this down to as little as 1 year or 2 years. So in the event that a coverage dispute arises or there's an extended period of time for an investigation of a claim, you want to be aware of what your limit is.
That's right, especially on first party claims that aren't triggered when someone makes a claim against you. And when you're talking about time element damages, that can take a while to quantify and label and bucket and understand. When you're talking about a piece of your business, it can take some time to put that claim together. So you really need to be aware of the limitations period, if there is one in your policy, and start thinking early on about tolling agreements. If there's any potential for a dispute, if there's any potential that you won't have your claim fully prepared before that limitations period expires.
Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to check out sdvlaw.com for more written and video insights and subscribe to our email list. If you have a question you'd like to see answered in a future video, send us an email at coverage@sdvlaw.com.